challenge? Are you challenged by being on the phone in sales? Listen, Andre 3000 already dropped the challenge. Are you challenged by getting on the phone and selling yourself or selling your solution? Don't be scared, it's okay. In this video, we're gonna talk about how to improve your phone sales skills. Don't believe the hype. The phone is not dead. All mediums are fair game in today's day and age. So let's talk about that. I have the honor of having my team here, the Big Money Movement team, Kelly Watson, our Director of Operations, Cheryl Parks, our lead coach and trainer. Let's talk about phone sales. Let's kick things off. Kelly?
Cheryl? I am not the phone sales skills expert.
Yes. Actually, let's kind of set the context here. So when you're trying to improve phone sales, it's really important to know what the goal is, right? So there are a couple of different scenarios. So when you're prospecting, and Liz is going to get into some things about, rate of speech, et cetera. But when you're prospecting, things need to go at a clip. It's like, let's get them interested. There's not a lot of time. This person likely doesn't know who you are. They don't know what kind of credibility you have to even be calling them. And so from there, the second scenario we want to talk about is when you're actually doing a discovery call, right? So you're actually learning about, so I slowed down. You're actually learning about what they're interested in, and you're being more curious and inquisitive. And then the third scenario is when you get into presentation, right? So now you're taking that leadership mode back, and you're coming in as an authority figure. When you're doing that, it's really important that you understand that there's a quote that I use: practice doesn't make perfect, it makes natural, comfortable, and confident.
Oh, okay, I like that.
In sales, you have to just keep doing and doing and doing. The reason people get really good at sales is because they're making calls over and over and over. Yeah. They're leaving just messages upon messages. And or if you're emailing connection requests, whatever it is you're doing, it's going to be the fact that you're replaying, right? So rinse and repeat. And then the second area that you want to focus on is being able to think on your feet. Because I used to play a game, so this is something you can do. I used to play mental games with myself. Like, I'm going to keep making calls until I get 3 connections, right? And so once they pick up, and I would constantly be saying, okay, this one's going to answer. This one's going to answer. I can't go to lunch until this one answers, right? And so sooner or later, you get to an area where you're looking forward to the person answering, and then you just need to be actively listening so you can think on your feet and answer the questions that are asked of you, as opposed to going into your own agenda. So
I love it.
Just my take.
Kelly, you have powerful presence when you're on calls, and as our Director of Operations, you lead a lot of our calls with our vendors and our teams, and I like the way you show up. Do you mind sharing a bit of just your approach to leading calls?
Yeah, Cheryl, I love how you said to show up as an authority figure on the call. I think that's very important. That's something that I try to also practice, just making sure that I lead the call, and you can do that by setting an agenda for the call, making sure that your pace is on point and consistent, that you are acknowledging all the members on the call and making virtual eye contact, as well as outlining before you get on the call which points you want to specifically emphasize. So you want them to take away one thing from the call. What's that one thing, and how can you make sure that that is apparent while on the call? So that's how I typically do it, Liz. And then also, you want to connect with them, tell a story, and position your offer as the only offer. Liz, I love how you consistently encourage our women to do that, not to necessarily think about the competitors, but you are the only option.
Right.
Agree. And I think we talk about selling on the phone. It's intimidating, right? For most people, I think there's a broad narrative out there that the phone is no longer effective, which I don't think is true, right? And then I also think that just when you understand the psychology of what happens on a phone call, you lose so much. So as human beings, when I'm sitting down with the two of you, my brain is processing so much data from your physiology, your mannerism. So there's all these data points that I can take in. The problem with the phone is it falls flat. So now I can't see you, I can't see your body language, I can't infer what you mean from something. So I'm entirely relying on your voice to build connection. And I think that's where us on phone, when we're on the phone selling, we have to really play into that. So I feel like I've lived 20,000 lives. I feel like Stop trying to add up my age. But I feel like I've had all these lives. And in one of my lives, you know, I was in call centers and I was really great. I was a top performer in call centers. And I think it's because I didn't take myself seriously. Like, I literally treated each phone call like it was my Academy Award. You know what I mean? I was like, who am I gonna be on this call? You know, like, and I didn't know, at the time I was just having fun with it, right? And so like, I would have different regions, and I'm a Chicagoan, so we talk fast if y'all ain't figured that out yet. So we talk fast. And so when I would go to New York, I'm like, oh, they have the same vibe. Like, New Yorkers are also like very, like, they like power, they're gonna test you, they talk fast. When I would talk to New Yorkers, I would match their pace. And then when I would call Southern region and I realized they had like a twang or they slowed down or they would have like these phrases of ma'am and respect, I would mirror that. And I didn't understand the statistics of it then. I just was having fun. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, if I want to build a connection with someone, I want to be comfortable for them. So when they talk to me, I want them to feel like they're hearing themselves. And then over time, I realized I'm outperforming my peers. And it wasn't until later in sales training that I realized there's psychology around that. Like, if I talk fast and you're on my phone line and you talking slow, I'm trying to get off the phone because you're slowing me down. You know what I mean? Or if I'm used to a slower pace and you're talking too fast, I'm annoyed by you. So I think part of it is surrendering. The goal of communication is not to do what we want to do, but to do what's going to be effective for the other party. So if you're looking to improve your phone sales skills, I think one is surrendering and matching the pace of the other party. Also, when we talk about the fact that like your audio falls flat, that means what are you going to do to like bring the volume in your voice, right? And so for me, in my experience, I always had a mirror at my desk. And so I always would, and I had a reminder, I posted on there to smile when I was on the phone because people can hear that in your voice. Like, they can hear if you're happy and excited, and it feels weird because you're like, nobody's watching me. But having that mirror to smile is there. Also, your physiology is important. Like, it's interesting how people can hear on the phone if you're like slouched or you're lazy or, you know, so we got a team behind the scene, this camera crew, I'm not gonna put them on blast. But let's say there was once upon a time where they asked for some audio from Liz and I delivered it to them and they were like, the audio sounds flat. Like, you're not giving enough energy in this audio. So I think it's just like getting your physiology together, making sure you have a mirror to smile, matching the pace of the other person on the phone, and bringing extra enthusiasm because that's all they have to translate.
And in your experience with phone sales, how long should they actually be? Is there a sweet spot of the length?
I'll give my thoughts, Cheryl. You might have a difference of opinion. I think it really depends on the buyer. I think the answer to everything sales is the buyer. So, you know, I've done sales, like when I did outpatient medical sales and I was selling to physicians and pharmacists. Like, the fact that I got them on the phone was a miracle, and I better get to the point real quick and get that order and get off the phone. I've also sold Medicare to the seniors and elderly population where, oh, that touched my heart, where a lot of times I was the only phone call they might have. And sometimes I would sit there for 90 minutes to 2 hours because I'm like, it cultivates a relationship, but also just, I'm a human being and I want to connect with people. And if they want to talk, I'm here. You know, you have to have some discipline to say, look, I have other things to do, but I think you meet the buyer where they're at. Yes. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely what you said, you meet the buyer where they're at. And I think the more you do, the more you'll realize that, like, I gauge how quickly I need to speak based on someone's voicemail greeting, right? Ooh. If they're speaking really quickly, I speak quickly. If they're very slow, I'm gonna slow the pace down.
Right.
Things of that nature. So it's really a matter of how methodical they are and understanding and looking for cues, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's not gonna say, I don't understand, but if you listen to the question that comes next, you'll know if someone understands what you just said.
That's true.
Oh my gosh, and you just made me think of something that's so important when you're talking about the cues. We didn't touch on the most important thing, which is active listening.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you're supposed to be listening during these calls. Gong.io is a software that I love. And so they have a software for salespeople and they drop all this data because they have recordings of calls and success metrics. And when they study sales calls, they can prove that the person, if you're the salesperson and you talk the most on the call, you're failing. So one of the key parts of improving your phone sales conversations is to be an amazing listener. Because if I listen to the recordings of your call, you should be speaking way less than the other person on the line. And so you can't hear those cues if you're not active listening.
And I'm gonna add one more thing. We've all been on the other side, right? So understand what it is you like or don't like.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't do it.
Right.
If you like it, then really try to understand what it was you really liked about that salesperson that you're now gonna invite to your birthday party, right?
Yeah.
Versus the one that you are like, never again.
Yes.
Would you
Yeah.
also say that the way to improve phone sales skills is to have more phone sales conversations? I just feel like people are afraid of it, or they're like intimidated by it a little bit, but the only way to get better at doing something is to do it more.
And role playing, like one of the things that I know, so inside of the Big Money Movement where we work with women entrepreneurs, we do role play. And the importance of that is because people are terrified, but you can't get better unless you're doing. And the beauty of sales, even though it gets a bad rep, is sales is mastery of communication. You can literally practice on loved ones, right? Like you can say, like, I'm about to call you to talk about my offering, you know, and I've done this with my husband. Like, I'm gonna call you, how am I doing? Ask me some questions, right? And you can practice that, or you can create a community or find a community, Big Money Movement plug. You can find a community where we're role playing and practicing with each other, because you have to surrender. The key about it is just like any communication method, you don't know what another human being is going to do in an interaction. So you want to be confident and flexible and surrender and listen to that person.
That's
really
the big
good.
deal, becoming a student and a leader in every moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a constant shift.
It is.
Yeah, and knowing when that shift needs to happen.
Oh my gosh.
Usually the pivotal point of you really want to continue the conversation or you don't. The other
Right.
person's like, you're not knowing when to shift and be a student, and I'm hanging up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. And speaking of shifts, I want to direct you to this next video that we have about how to get corporate clients. Phone sales, that's just one tactic, right? And so the goal of an entrepreneur is to empower yourself with the entire tool belt so that you can secure six-figure corporate clients. Click that video so that we can continue the conversation, and let's make big money moves together. See you there.